If you are someone who looks at a certain sin in your life and thinking that it's just something you're gonna have to deal with for the rest of your life, this video is for you, because I'm sitting here being a living, breathing testimony that God can give you freedom from anything. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. My name is Tiffany, and today we're going to be talking about breaking that bad habit of sin in your life. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, I hope you like it, and even you should totally subscribe after too. But without further ado, let's get into the video. The first thing I wanted to say is, when it comes to sin, obviously we're all never going to be sinless here in this world because we live in the world, but that is not an excuse for us not to fight it, especially when Jesus has done what he's done, and as Christians we believe in the power of what he's done. So the first thing I feel like to break the habit of sin is to recognize the cycle that you are in. It's just kind of look at, before you've done that sin and you're sitting on the couch sad about it, I feel like it's important for us to realize, how did I get here and why do I keep getting here? And I feel like it's such a good step that you even clicked on this video, and it's kind of just like you're acknowledging that there's this sin habit that I have and I want to break it. And for most of us, the sin cycle goes kind of like the same way. It's like temptation, then like we fall into the temptation, then we feel guilty, and then we repent about it, and hopefully you guys are repenting about it. But yeah, so the cycle is usually like temptation, fall into temptation, then we feel guilty, and then we repent, and it's just this endless cycle. And I don't know about you guys, but I hate like going to God about something like over and over and over again, even though I know we're supposed to. And I don't think God is a bit like rolling his eyes or anything. He's definitely not doing that. But it's just like me looking at it, it's just like it's just like, God, like I'm tired of like coming to you about this. Like I know like you're here, I know you're here for me, but like I'm tired of doing this, like literally. So like, and then and it's just like, it's happened, it could get to the point where it's happened so many times where it just feel like it's just gonna happen. It's just like a circle, like there's a thing that's just like over and over and over. And that's where, when I was saying in the beginning of the video, like how things can feel like there's no escape from it. It's just like, this is just something I'm just gonna have to deal with in my life, in my walk with Christ, and this is just gonna have to like, I'm just gonna have to deal with it. And I'm saying like, we don't just have to deal with it, because Jesus has given us a way out of it, and that's freedom. The way this analogy kind of like just came in my brain right now, because like the second step is just kind of like getting to the root of the sin, and it's just like it's just kind of like your triggers. How did I get here? It's one thing to like understand the cycle and know that you're in this cycle, which is a good thing, but it's a whole nother thing to understand. It's just like, why do I keep doing this? Like, get to the root of the problem. Something I came to realize when I was thinking about this is that sometimes, or most of the time for me, it started with an emotion, whether it was a feeling of loneliness, a feeling of sadness, a feeling of frustration, or it could just simply be like something like lust, or one of those anger, like one of those deadly sins. And it's important for us to realize what brought me here. And because if you don't know what brought you here, then you're not going to know how to fight off that thing that brought you here. James 1:14-15 says, "But each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. Then after the desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. And sin, when it is full grown, gives birth to death." It starts with that desire, that want. And like, before we get that desire, there's kind of like that emotion that I was talking about. And just to give an example and to be vulnerable, because I don't want you guys to think that like I'm some kind of expert and I don't have any bad sin habit in my life or things like that. But I feel like a big one for all of us is lust and struggling with masturbation and all those things. And when that was a bad habit in my life, it usually would start with either loneliness or boredom. When I think about it, like it would happen the most of the time when I was lonely or bored. And when I was lonely or bored, I would always get the desire to watch porn or to masturbate. And the loneliness, on the loneliness aspect, it could come from when I would like read, even if I would like go and like read a romance book when I was lonely, I would read a romance book, and then there would be less than a romance book, and then it would go, yeah, now I'm sitting on the couch and I'm sad. Like it could be a lot of things, even stress or something, but like whatever it is for you, it's important to know what that thing is and learn how to fight that off, which is basically what we're going to talk about next. So the biggest thing I've learned, and the biggest thing that has happened to me on my walk with God, is realizing how to break these bad habits and these sin habits is to replace them with godly ones. And it sounds so simple, but it's really like a cheat code. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it's like a cheat code, and that not a lot of people realize that. Even if you think about just like habits in general, like when you're trying to get rid of a bad habit, oh, I drink too much soda, I need to start drinking water. It's just like there's a bad habit of drinking soda, and let me replace it with a good thing, replace it with water. So obviously it's still going to be hard, but it's just like it gives you something in replace of that, instead of you just trying to focus on the bad habit, if that makes sense. Because if we focus too much on that thing, then we're just gonna keep falling into these cycles of sin, because there's no life in pitying yourself. Just pitying yourself, being sad, like, oh, I'm stuck, woe is me. Like being like that all the time when there's a solution right in front of you is self-sabotage, which is pride, actually. What I have in my hair is called, it's called Why I Do What I Don't Want to Do. And this is like not a sponsorship or nothing. Like this is literally just one of my favorite books I'm reading right now. And it basically talks about replacing deadly vices with life-giving virtues. And it's basically talking about what we're talking about right now, which is replacing godly habits, replacing bad habits, sin habits, with godly habits. And so going back to, to go further into the book, it talks about, like the 7 deadly sins. So it says right here, it says, can you guys see it? Like pride and anger and lust and greed and all those things. And beside it is a godly virtue to replace it with, to get rid of that thing. So it's just like, to fight the pride in your life, you need more humility. You need to humble yourself more. To fight yourself being greedy, you need to be more generous. And the same thing with like anger, you need to learn how to forgive people. Apathy is diligence, lust, self-control, and it goes on and on and on. And this book it's so good, it's amazing, and I recommend it to anybody. But going back to finding the root, so it's just like, what do you do when you're lonely? What do you do when you're sad? And if you're not going to God, that's where that little cycle, that sin cycle is gonna start again. If that first step you take is not towards God and it's towards some worldly thing, that's when the cycle's just gonna keep going. In order to break the cycle, instead of going to that thing, that worldly thing, we need to go to God, because that's where it begins. And then once you go to God, you're like, hey, like, it's just kind of like something like switches in the brain, retraining your mind to say like, oh, instead of going to this when I'm lonely, I'm gonna go to God. And instead of watching some stupid show on Netflix, I'm gonna go and watch, I don't know, your favorite Christian YouTuber, your favorite Christian content creator. Oh, instead of reading this book about lust and all these things, let me go pick up this instead. It's just like, one thing I'm learning about God is there's always an alternative, whether we think there is or not. Like there's something for everybody. So the biggest piece of advice I could give you for breaking the sin habit in your life is just to replace it with a godly habit. And a good habit to form for anything that you're going through, to replace any habit, is just going to read the Bible. Prayer is also a good place to start as well. And another thing, the next thing I was going to talk about was having accountability and community. Spending time with godly people instead of spending time with worldly people makes such a huge difference, because when you have people who are, oh my gosh, my voice. When you have people who are like speaking life into you and who you can even bring this sin habit problem to, and they can encourage you and feed into you and not let you listen to the lies of the devil that he's planted into your head. And just, that's why I always encourage people to like find a church home and just find people that you can always know you can go to and always know they're going to point you back to Jesus. And when it comes to accountability, it's just like nothing's going to happen if you're keeping your secrets in the dark. And what I learned from sharing my testimony, not only online, but just like with my people at my church, it's just that we're all so the same. I mean, we're all incredibly different, but we're all so like incredibly the same. And like there's someone out there that is probably going exactly what you're going through, and not only can they relate to it, they can help you with it. So that's also encouraging me to go and tell somebody about it. And the last thing I just wanted to say in this video, sorry if I was just kind of like rambling a lot and going on a lot about a lot of things. We need to focus less on killing the sin and more on loving God. Because if you focus more on loving God, the killing of the sin will come naturally. And I'm saying, so that means like, if I'm focusing on these like good godly habits, doing these things every day, instead of saying like, oh my gosh, I need to avoid doing this, whatever that sin is. I have noticed, which is something I'm still working on, it's just like I have noticed like when I'm just locked in with God and just doing the things that I know God has called me to do throughout my day, that it doesn't even pop into my mind. There is power in simply just spending time with God and just doing godly things. If you guys like want like a video of like, I don't want to say Christian alternative, but just like I don't have a better word, alternatives to worldly things. And like I said, it's a good start that you even clicked on this video, because you chose to look at this video instead of something, you know, worldly. That, and you know, there's worldly things out there that don't really harm, but they don't help either. And that's just kind of like you. And to me, if it's not helping, it's harming. And I feel like when it comes to sin, if you're not killing it, it's killing you. If you're not killing sin, sin will be killing you. And the biggest way to kill sin is to love God and to spend time with God, because sin is separation from God. So in order to fight that sin in your life, is you gotta fight for God to be in your life. You gotta fight for that relationship with God. So it's gonna, like, you're gonna have to make some hard choices. You're gonna have to get rid of a lot of things, but God is so worth it. A relationship with God is so worth it. Your life is worth it. And yeah, so just focus on loving God and doing things that you know God has called you to do. And it's not gonna be easy. And like I said, we're never gonna be completely sinless in this life, but I'm gonna fight, and you should fight too. I hope there was something in here that helped you and encouraged you. And if there was, I pray that you like the video and subscribe to my channel, because I make videos like this. Trying to do it Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. I hope you guys liked this video, and I hope you guys just have an amazing day. And remember that Jesus has set us free, and there is freedom for you, and there is freedom for me. And that's the word. Bye, guys.